Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. This is Success with Srini.
If I somehow magically will predict your future, what will it do to you? What will happen to you? What will you do with me? Let's say whatever I tell you is going to come true. Your short-term future, your long-term future, all that is going to come true. Then what will happen? Well, the reason why I'm saying that is because we as humans, we are curious to know about tomorrow. What's going to happen to us? What is our future? That curiosity is there. And all of us, we are connected through that curiosity. And that is why astrologers and fortune tellers, they are always in demand. Welcome back to Success with Srini. Today on the podcast, we are talking about creating a predictable future. See, there is power in predictions because predictions give hope to the mind. And as far as my understanding goes, nobody knows the future. But if I somehow take an authority position and I tell you, I study you, I understand you, and then I tell you what's going to happen to you in that moment, as I'm telling you these things, let's for a second assume that I'm telling you all positive things. In that moment, I'm now future pacing you and I'm giving you the hope, the comfort, in a way, some direction on what's going to happen to you. You feel good about yourself, and there is a possibility that you may take that as a positive suggestion, as a suggestion to the mind, and that suggestion creates a positive mental expectancy. And there are chances, it's proven that people, when they listen positive things about them, they tend to act on them. It's amazing. Now, clearly, if you are a student of success and you listen to podcasts like this or read books on self-improvement, you know that the real future is that which you create. The only way to predict the future is to create it yourself. That's all. So I want to take a few moments in the podcast and kind of share some of my thoughts on how to create predictability in things that you want to do or you're doing right now. What I want to do is I want to digress a bit and I want to draw a metaphor here. This is the time of the year when children are graduating. So kids are graduating school, different middle school, elementary school, high school, and also college. So that part is already done. And right now, as I'm recording this podcast, this is the time when kids are having secondary graduations. By secondary graduations, what I mean is, let's say they're pursuing a passion, or they were learning to play music or piano or dance, recitals and all that. This is the time when they perform and they graduate. My daughter just graduated last week. She had been dancing for about 12 years. And she just graduated last weekend. As a part of that, we had a lot of people come in and see her performance, a lot of her friends. At the end of the performance, it was a huge preparation for me personally and for my wife and all that. As we did all that, at some point into that preparation, all these things came together. But as a part of that recital, as people were coming in to see, some of them, they all brought the flower bouquets. And at the end of that whole recital, when we were taking down the stage and decorations and all, everything was taken down, people left, and I was driving home. I had all these flower bouquets, like 7-8 of them, and I had no idea what to do with them. Everybody was gone, and I was thinking maybe I should give it to, I'll drive around and just give it to a few friends so that they can place them in each of the bouquet can be placed in a vase, and I don't have that many vases with me to place them at home. But if I don't do it, then I will lose those flowers. So I had to do it very, very quickly because it's summer here and the bouquets were going bad. I come home and I take all the containers I have, whatever big containers we have, and I start placing these flowers, pour water in the containers and put the flowers, so that I don't want the flowers to kind of, die. Right? I don't know what the right word is, but you get the idea. Now, let me take this as a metaphor for a second. Now, all these flower bouquets, they had the rose stems, most of them, almost all of them, rose stems. Each rose stem, let's assume that each of these rose stems are your passions, your desires, your skills, your talents, each one of them. Let's draw some parallels there. Let's assume for a second. Now, if we do not place these skills, talents, passions into a container with water, the container is life. And in a way, Mother Nature or God, whatever, or higher power, whatever you believe in, it has given us all these skills, talents, passions, and all that. Our job is to keep them in the container so that all of them, they perform. But we don't. And if I would have not placed these stems in a container, not a proper container, ideally a vase, but I placed them in some containers, I saved them. But then that's not the way I would present. So if you come to my house and you see these flowers in all these containers, it doesn't make any sense. It's making sense to me because I don't have, and I don't want these flowers to die. So whatever little bit they will do for a day or two, I just want to keep them alive. You see, this is a lesson that was given to us by our parents and our teachers very early in our lives, where we were told to have structured education. They sent us to school. They wanted us to get that education so that we are structured. Now, at this point in time, after all these many years, you see, we want a predictable future, and that's where I started this podcast. And going back to that point of creating the predictable future, you see, there are three things: money, relationships, and health. If somehow you become predictable with these three things, your future is set. So you have to work hard across all these three things. So for example, money, let's say you're working now 8 or 10 hours a day, you are making active money, active income. At some point you want to make it passive. Relationships, now you're actively working, you're raising children and all that. Slowly that becomes passive, because children grow up and take care and start to take control of their lives. So in a way, you're still doing what you have to do or what you're supposed to do, but then it becomes passive. Your health, you work out, you exercise, you eat right, you do all that. Eventually, whatever the functions, the numbers are in the body, for example, your blood pressure, your sugar, whatever that is, cholesterol numbers, all that, those become predictable. So you don't need to worry about them anymore, because you now worked hard and you got those numbers, and those numbers are stable. And in a way, now those numbers are passive. So those numbers happen as long as you're working out. So once we do these things, life becomes predictable. For these things to happen, there has to be a structure. There has to be a structural approach. It's difficult to create predictability when there is no structure, because structure provides the order. Something I missed out as a kid. So when everything is in structure, things happen orderly. Day-to-day actions, tasks, goals, working on your business, working in the job, or working at home, doing the chores, whatever, everything happens in order. Everything needs a place. And our job is to provide or create that space. And everything becomes easier to manage if there is space allocated for that, whatever that is. So, where am I going with this? Go organize yourself. Create a structure for everything that you are thinking of creating or currently operating in. For your finances, there has to be a structure. For your health, obviously structure. For your job, for your passions, for your recreation, whatever you have got going, there has to be a structure. So in each of those structures, you categorize the actions, you categorize the goals, kind of put them together in those. Think about them as containers. And you start putting these things in those containers, and you know exactly where to find them. You know exactly what to do with them. And you don't need to be scattered all over the place. Talking about scattered thinking, you know, it's amazing. I made this point a long time ago on this podcast. People spend 18 hours a year going between windows on their laptop. If you open a window, close a window, open a window, close a window. The browser tabs. I mean, the amount of time it takes for you to minimize a window and maximize a window, and you add that up, 18 hours over a year. That's a lost time. You can't justify that in any which way. I remember long time ago, I went to meet a friend of mine, now a friend, but somebody who I met through another friend of mine. So it's kind of a acquaintance back then. So invited me to his house, and I went there, and the first thing I observed was their garage turned into a room. I said, wow, okay, you turned your garage into a room. Yeah, you know, we don't park our cars in the garage, so it didn't make any sense. So I park it outside. And my mind was, wow, if you park your car outside, then there is an experience you have that otherwise people who park their cars in the garage do not have, which is either you step into a heated car or you step into a wet car. So you park outside, so it gathers either heat from the sun or the rain from the clouds. That's not the purpose. So your car is supposed to be in the garage, and you leave it outside. So these are two additional things you're adding on top of them. If you place things where they're supposed to be, the things will do what they're supposed to do. That's the point. The message on this podcast is, I had some other things in my mind as I'm speaking, but you get the idea. I want you to start looking into all aspects of your life, whatever 2 or 3 things that you have got going right now, and start giving a structure to all that. Structure is not simply writing stuff down in a journal and reading them and all that. That could be a structure, but that's not the structure I'm talking. I'm talking about compartmentalizing your brain and organizing everything that I see and your mind processes that you're looking around into those compartments mentally, also physically. And now you operate. And now everything seems to be in control. And you don't have the stress, you don't have the anxiety, you're not dealing with too many unknowns, and you are not dealing with too much of lag. That's the point. Okay, my time is up. Hopefully today's podcast episode is helpful. Hopefully the metaphor I was using comes across appropriately to the point I'm trying to drive here. And again, if you like the podcast, you're watching this on YouTube, or you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting app, all these places have a place for you to write a review, rate, and all that. So please take a moment and do that. And wherever you are, be safe. And I'll be back here again with another podcast episode as early as tomorrow. That's all for now. Stay tuned. Bye now.